Oh yes, it's been a wonderful session, animated and directed by Adriano Pedrosa, about the question of the Biennale. And it is obviously a very big topic, you know, in a situation where today we have many Biennales all over the world. It's about the state of the Biennale, it's about the future of the Biennale. And it's maybe important to think about what this means all in relation to globalization, because we obviously live a moment of extreme globalization. I mean, this is not the first moment of globalization we experience, or the world experiences, but it's certainly one of the most extreme moments of globalization. And last week, Edouard Glissant died, the visionary poet and novelist, and I'd like to dedicate this short comment here on your TV to his memory, because Edouard Glissant has really shown us ways to navigate globalization in a meaningful way, because he showed the dangers, which is obviously also true for Biennales. There are more and more Biennales, so the homogenizing forces are also at stake in relation to, you know, to the Biennale, and have to be resisted. So it's on the one hand about resisting these homogenizing forces. On the other hand, it's about finding ways of defining a global dialogue and not missing out on this global dialogue, actually defining it in a way that it can produce difference, that it doesn't annihilate difference. And that's why Glissant said we should call it mondialité, we should call it a difference producing global dialogue. And I think Glissant's ideas are very relevant for a Biennale today, a Biennale which is not a continent, but a Biennale which is a 21st century archipelago. And I think there are many different, you know, questions right now which are interesting. There's obviously also, in terms of the ever-increasing limits to the resources, I mean, in terms of natural resources, in terms of sustainability, the whole global sustainability discussion, I think, has also to be, you know, discussed in relation to the Biennale. And what does it mean, you know, sustainable Biennale? What are memory of Biennales? How can Biennales be not just event culture, but how can they actually develop a sustained, you know, presence in a city which you know, can lead to long-term, you know, to long-term projects, and that's, I think, a very interesting aspect. I think Biennales are also a 21st century, you know, form of urbanism. I think there is a very strong connection to urbanism, and very often Biennales, you know, leave the confined space of a museum and go into the city. And I think there are a couple of very interesting examples. If we think, for example, about the mayor of Tirana, Edi Rama, who together with the artist Henri Sala developed this idea of coloring buildings. If we think about this idea how actually a Biennale can really become part of the urban tissue, I think that's very interesting. Yes, I mean, I was asked by ARCO to put together a roundtable tomorrow about the museum in Latin America. So it has a focus on Latin America. I was very glad about this invitation, because my research over the last couple of years has led a lot in this context, and I've had amazing studio visits, met amazing architects also in Bogota, in Medellin when I went there a couple of months ago. Have made a lot of research, you know, in Brazil, and research, studio visits, interviews, and I think it's a very good moment to think about this idea of what could be institutions in this incredibly optimistic and also energetic situation. What could be new museums? And so we thought to do a very transdisciplinary panel. So we have actually protagonists from the world of sound, from the world of music, from the world of theater, from the world of art, from the world of architecture. So because I think the museum is a question which goes beyond the boundaries of a discipline. I think we need to go beyond the fear of pooling knowledge, as, you know, Georgi Kepes said so beautifully. So in this sense, you know, it's going to be a discussion which will address this question of the museum, and where actually each participant will propose their kind of, you know, institution, their dream museum, their institution, how he or she would imagine it for the 21st century. So it's also in a concrete way, you know, this idea of what could be a concrete utopia. Yes, I mean, concerning ARCO, this is not the first time, you know, I visit. It's I've been very much actually since the 90s participating in, you know, roundtable discussions here and panels, and this year the format changed. This year it's a very different format, because usually it's you know, open discussions, and this year it's more like a think tank. This year it's more you know, intimate conversations, and it's a different, you know, it's a different format. Format changes, and we produce different results. So it's a very interesting new experiment.